Hopefully we'll switch over to the presentation in a sec, or now. There we go, we're there. Hi everyone. So this, unsurprisingly, is about pitching that we're going to talk about today. It's quite intimidating because there's a guy that does the same job as me that's sitting right there, Callum, who's probably going to be judging. I'm going to try to avoid looking at him. So everyone else, just try and make eye contact with me. Yeah, just hide your face. Sorry, there we go. I've got a loud voice anyway, it's all good. Actually, I'll hold it. Yeah, can I hold it? Can I just hold this mic? Is that okay? Okay, that's great. I don't like to stand there. Quick show of hands before I start. How many people here are student developers, or still students? Right, that's a lot of you. That's great. You're going to love this talk. It's not going to be what you're expecting. How many people here from the publishing side? Yes. Thank God. All of my secrets are safe if you kill him before he goes out of here. That's really good. Okay, so we're going to talk about pitching today, and this is going to be really useful to a lot of you, but it's not going to be the kind of pitching talk that you're probably used to hearing, where we're going to talk about everything that you need to put in a presentation, because pitches are, or my theory is, pitches are kind of like interviews. That's the analogy, right? You kind of treat them like a job interview, and there's a lot of kind of best practices or bad practices that people have when it comes to pitching, and I completely want to break all of those walls down and make this about demystifying a lot of the pitching process and the way that you go into a pitch, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, and they're really minor things actually, but it causes people to kind of trip up and screw up when they go into pitches. And I'm going to explain why. So before I do that, I'll just give a bit of background about myself. Obviously, I'm Ben. As I was introduced, I'm a business developer and a product developer. What that means, essentially, is that I help develop and steer projects so that people can get investment, so that they get the support they need for their studio. But also, specifically, I'm working at Good Shepherd at the moment, essentially as a curator. So I'm helping them with their portfolio management and helping to steer the kind of content and the kind of label that they want to create. And a lot of that involves looking at pitches and figuring out what's a good pitch, what's a bad pitch, what's good for Good Shepherd, and what's good for the developer and the partner that we're looking to work with. So basically, 95% of my job is looking at pitches. And prior to Good Shepherd, I used to work at these two companies, and it's been about 15 years in all that I've worked across these two companies. And I actually used to not work on the publishing side. So I've been on both sides of the fence. I used to be a developer. I was a game designer at Sega, and I was a game designer or level designer at Sony at Worldwide Studios before moving into a team that maybe some of you have heard of. It's called Strategic Content. There's a guy called Shahid Ahmed who was part of that developer relations group and outreach program during or prior to PS4 launch and during PS Vita era. And I looked at a lot of pitches. I've seen every kind of pitch you can imagine during my time, and I've written every type of pitch you can imagine when I was a developer, when I was a designer, and I had to write these things for internal consumption. I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones, I've seen everything in between. And just to kind of give you a sense of the projects that I've worked on that I signed while I was at Strategic Content, I'm just going to go through some of the projects that I produced and I signed while I was there. So No Man's Sky, Hellblade, Rez, Hotline Miami. I'm not going to read them. You can actually just tell what they are. Maybe not that one. That's Volume. So you can see I signed a lot of things, right? Quite a lot of things. I know what games are good, right? And I haven't just cherry-picked the ones that were good. Nothing that I signed was bad, right? And there's a reason for that. No, it's true. And I'm not being arrogant when I say that. It's just true. And there is a reason for that that we're going to go into. So you can see that I've signed a lot of things. I actually worked it out. This is how many things I've signed over my career. Oh, sorry, that's a lie. These are how many pitches I've seen over my career. And I'm actually going to put a question out to you. So I want to hear some shout-outs. Of this number, how many games do you think I've actually signed in 15 years out of this number of 3,000? How much? 150. 150? Someone? 200? 40. Right. Not surprisingly, the publisher is the closest. So I've signed probably about 50, right? Out of this number. 50 successful pitches out of 3,000, right? And you just saw about 10, I think it was, in that list before. That was while I was at Strategic Content, and there was probably about another 10 in all that I signed while I was there for 5 years. That's 20 games in 5 years. So let's talk about building the perfect deck and package and presentation, right? So that's what we're here to do, right? The talk is called Pitch Perfect. We're here to figure out how is it that you go into a pitch and make sure that you're one of that 50, that you are going to pitch and get the investment and the support or whatever it is that you need from a publisher or an investor. How are you going to make sure that you're the one? So you're probably expecting me to, give you an outline of exactly what the content is that you go through when you're giving a pitch. Like slide 1, name of the game, boom. Slide 2, convey the game in 1 sentence, nice, concise, clear, boom. Slide 3, you got a video, or you bring the build out and you show someone, boom, bang, bang, bang. They get their wallet out, you've done it. Job done, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the perfect deck. Actually, we're not going to talk about the perfect deck at all. That is not what we're going to do today. So this is what I meant about the interview analogy. I'm going to get rid of this because everyone is distracted by it. So the interview analogy is really important because the perfect pitch doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And I know some people, that's kind of a bit controversial, but I'm going to say something that's even more controversial. And it's really, really important for you, particularly a lot of the students here and student developers, to understand this. And I'm sorry if this kind of hurts you in some way, but the quicker you realize this, the more likely you are to get investment. And it's a thing that business development people know, and we talk about in our circle, but it's not spoken about openly with other people. And I don't know why. Those are noisiest shoes. Sorry. Don't walk back. Okay. You just ruined my perfect point. I was building up in such a nice way. But here's the thing. Here's the secret. No one signs a game because it's great. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you're going to be successful when you go into a pitch and in getting the investment you want. I can see some heartbroken faces right now, but it's the truth. No one signs a game because it's innovative and it's experimental and it's great. But here's the thing. That's a prerequisite. No one signs a game that's bad, so your game does have to be good. It does have to be great. They wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't. But that is not the thing that gets your game signed by itself. People sign things, people invest in something. Why? Why do you pay money to buy something? Like, why would you do that? For anything that you're buying, you buy it because you get something from it, right? That's just common sense. So if you're looking to pitch and if you're looking to get investment and you're going into a pitch, the sooner you realize that, the sooner you realize that your job in that pitch is to convey and explain why it's worth giving you money. And that isn't just about the game in itself in a bubble, but it's actually bigger than that. You have to think outside of the box. The sooner you're going to be able to get support from a publisher or from an investor, if it's not a publisher. So it's really, really, really important to understand that. There's no such thing as a perfect presentation, right? And I'd be bullshitting you. It would be a massive disservice to all of you here if I stood here and I said, yeah, if you do this, if you put all of this content into a presentation, you'll be fine, you'll get money. Because what you need in a pitch and what you need to talk about is totally different than what you need to do, right? And not only because your games are different, but also because when you talk to different people, they have different objectives. There's a different context to that conversation. It's a different dynamic, right? So what can you do, right? So what you have to do is focus on your preparation. And you have to focus on the right kind of pitch and the right kind of presentation at the right time. Because, and this is the key, pitching is really, really, really difficult. It's really hard. And sometimes you could get everything right. You could have a great game. You could have a great publisher or partner. You could have a great deck, a great build, a great video. Everything could be perfect, but the timing could be wrong. You just got there a month too late, or a day too late, and they've run out of money to give you, right? And that's just the way it is. So what we can try and do is focus on preparedness, how you prepare yourself, the attitude you need to have when you go into a pitch, because what I want to do today, and we're going to delve into this now a bit deeper, is make sure that you go with the right attitude so that it's not about the specifics of what goes into every slide and the order of things and kind of micromanaging your own presentation, but really giving you the tools and the understanding so that you can go into any presentation with any potential partner on any project and know and understand what it is that you need to get across. And know how to come out of the pitch in a good way, even if everything is perfect, but it was the wrong time. And I'll come back to this in a minute as to how you can actually, that can be a win as well. Even though it doesn't seem like it, that can actually be a good thing. So you're like, okay, you know, we get it, Ben. It's all about preparation. It's all about alertness. How do I get money? Like, how do I get the investment that I want? That's all I care about. Right? And it's 3 simple things that you actually need to do that we're going to delve into. Notice, by the way, that I'm saying simple things. I'm not saying easy things. They are not easy things to get because it requires a lot of change and a different approach and thought process on your part. But they are simple, straightforward things to understand. And these are the 3 things. Have empathy, understand value, and demonstrate passion and ability. Right? This is really, really important, right? This is like a mantra, okay? Don't worry, dude, you can take a photo if you're going to take a photo. We'll go back. This thing is like delayed, so there we go. So if you remember nothing else today, remember these 3 things, right? Ignore everything else I've said if you have to, except for the joke about the guy with the loud shoes, because that was pretty funny, right? But these are the 3 things that you absolutely need to keep in mind when you're preparing your pitch, when you are not just thinking about making the game and developing the game, but you're thinking about talking to people about the game. Focus on these 3 things. If you use these as a mantra, you'll be good, right? And you can ignore all of those kind of bullshit Gama Sutra things. Here are the 25 things that you need to have in a pitch, because it just won't apply to you, right? But these things will hold you in good stead. And if you approach things thinking about empathy, value, and how to demonstrate passion and ability, you will build good relationships and you will have good pitch presentations, which are interlocked. Those 2 things are the same thing, right? So we're going to really kind of focus on these. I've put empathy and value together because there's some crossover there. So I really want to start thinking about how meaningfully you approach those things in terms of empathy and value. Like, what does that actually mean to understand value, and how do you have empathy, right? Everyone should inherently have empathy unless we've got some sociopaths in the room, right? But like, you know, people should know what these things are, but you need to think about those in the context of pitching. And this word cloud, I've highlighted 3 kind of really obvious things, but we're going to go into all of them. The most important thing about empathy is thinking about and answering the question of what's in it for me? And that applies both to yourself and to the person on the other side of the table, right? How can I help them? How does the thing that I have help them? Right? You're selling, they're buying. So think about that deeply. Like really go on that journey and think about that a lot. Don't just think, well, I've looked at all your games and you don't have X genre game. Therefore, that could be an element of it, but really think about it a lot, as much as you can. Think about how you can solve a problem for the people that you're talking to, because believe me, if you can solve a problem and make that person look good, they will give you money like that, right? And they will champion you and fight for you long after you've signed a contract and they've given you money, which is what you want. You don't just want someone to give you money and then go away, right? You want them to support you during the entire process. So if you can make someone look good in front of their boss, you're sweet, right? So really think about how you do that. And how do you do that? So how do you understand how you help someone? You look at what that company is doing, what that publisher is doing, what's important to them, what are their business objectives, what have they said publicly in talks, or from speaking to your peers and talking to other people that have spoken to them, what understanding do you have about what they're trying to achieve as a business, and how can you help them achieve that? Also, how can they help you achieve what you want? Because they want to understand what your needs are as much as understanding what you want from them, because that gives them a very clear roadmap and understanding of how they can help you. And if you can take them most of that way by showing them that you understand the value of your own project and your own studio, that's a really good sign. It shows that you're thinking strategically. You're not just thinking about this one game, you're thinking bigger than that. You're thinking about your studio, you're thinking about the next project, you're thinking about the relationship. So when you go into a pitch, the attitude you should have is really about establishing this relationship and this dynamic. I mentioned there having rapport. You know, that means really treating the pitch like a courting, you know, like before you start dating, right? That's what it is. You know, it's not like the pitch is the end all and be all. It's just the beginning of a relationship. So you need to treat it in the right way. You need to customize and adapt your material. You know, think about what they want to see, and what Nintendo want to see is going to be different than what Sony want to see. What Raw Fury want to see is going to be different than what Good Shepherd wants to see, right? So really think about what that is. Talk to them. And trust them, right? Go into it with trust. And that's a really big ask, I know. You know, the assumption is, the default is, and the cynical view is to, you know, you shouldn't trust anyone for no reason. You earn trust, and that's true. But you can't have a good relationship and good business without some element of trust. There needs to be some element of taking a leap. And that's the foundation of a good relationship and good business. Also think about, when I talk about value, I don't just mean fiscal value. You know, I've spoken about the philosophical value, the value of your studio, the value of your game. But do also think about the fiscal element. And I don't just mean how much you think your game should be sold for. I mean, you know, how much you're looking for. It's a really obvious thing, but be very clear about what your needs are and what you want. And then think about the price point as well. Think about the amount of money that you're asking for and how much you would need to sell in order to make that money back. You know, you don't have to have a huge formula and think about this in a load of detail. That's not your job, but you need to think about it a little bit. You need to show them that you're thinking about it. That gives confidence to people that you're talking to. So have data to back it up. Have comps, you know, have similar titles. look at how they've performed at launch, what their price points are, look at what their primary and their secondary segments and quadrants are in terms of audiences. Where is their crossover? Where can you go? What should your price point be? What's your break even? For a lot of publishers, it's fundamentally about break even, right? So make sure you can understand and hit that number, and that you can be confident in hitting that number. So just show them that you're thinking about these things. So passion and ability, they're kind of self-explanatory, but I'll go through some points here. So some of these are really important, and people don't really think about it when they go into a pitch. And this is where I want to kind of go back to the interview analogy, right? Even though there's a lot of similarities, do not treat a pitch like an interview. Don't get yourself wound up tight like a coil and nervous, right? Have fun. It's really important to go in and have fun and be passionate and show that you are loose and adaptable and that you have clarity of vision, that you know what the story, not just of the game is, I'm not talking about the game's narrative, but the story of your presentation, the story of this game, what the flow of that presentation is. You know, practice it, but don't practice it so much that you read off a deck. Please do not do that. I would immediately ignore you if you do that, right? Why would you, really just practice it enough so that you know every single slide. You could jump to a different slide if you had to without breaking the flow. You can start riffing. If you pick up on something that they say, which is another point there, listen. You can't establish rapport if you're the only one that's talking for half an hour, right? Listen to what they say. They might give you a clue as to something that you didn't already know. Or they might say something that you're like, oh, cool, that's what they're interested in. And then if you've practiced it enough, if you know your game inside out, you understand your value, and now you've got a sense even more so of what they're looking for, you can be like, oh yeah, I talk about that. I'm just going to jump straight to that slide, and I'm going to talk about it. And that's so much better than reading off stuff. You don't want to be like, my game, here's this. Okay, so you can see the bullet point. It's an open world RPG with some dungeon-like elements. There's 5 worlds in it. Fuck, don't do that. Please don't do that. I can read. I'm not a child, right? Try not to be too text-heavy, right? Try to be concise, have brevity, right? You can send material as part of a package which breaks all of that down for them to read in their own time. But when you're pitching, you want to get people enthused. You want to get them excited, right? And sitting there and reading something that's right in front of me in a block of text is not going to get me excited. It's going to put me to sleep, right? So don't do that. Practice it so much that it's just natural, right? And I asked this question on Twitter a while ago, and one of the big 2 kind of fears that came out when people were talking about their fears going into a pitch was conveying the game's mechanics, like conveying what the game is, particularly if it's something it's hard to put into a particular genre. It's quite hard to define. And that is a really difficult challenge to do that in a way that's concise. But again, thinking about the end game and the long game, it's not about just explaining what the game's mechanics are. You have to convey what the game is and what's unique about the game or what's interesting about the game. But that's a means to an end. You're doing that in order to demonstrate value. It's not an end in itself to convey what the mechanics are. So don't worry about that too much. Right? Worry about it just the right amount in terms of these are the mechanics, these are why it's different, but this is why it's valuable to you. That's where you want to get to, not just these are the mechanics, this is why it's different. Yeah, okay, it's different, so what? Maybe I'm not looking for something different, so what? Right? So don't worry about that too much, but work on conveying it in the right way. Also, make sure that you have a prototype. Right? There's no excuse in this day and age to not have a prototype to show. I can count on one hand the amount of things that I've ever signed without a prototype, and in each one of those cases, it's because I had a relationship with those devs already, and they were proven developers. Right? So not only were they proven, but I had actually personally worked with them. And that's why I signed without a prototype. If you come to me without a prototype and you ask for £10, I'm not going to give it to you, right? There's no excuse. So have a prototype and have a video as well. Make sure you send a video. It's easy. If they will want to internally talk about the game if they're interested, a video is easier than a prototype because a marketing person won't be interested in playing the game themselves. An executive won't be interested in playing the game, but a video would be useful for them. So make it a good short video, you know, not a 20-minute video, like a minute video, max. And just have fun, you know. It's just go in and have fun. And notice the only two things that have been on this word cloud and on the previous one is trust. Right? Again, be willing to take a leap and trust the other person. Trust the people that you're talking to because you're in it together. If you've got skin in the game, if you've got a prototype, you've showed that you're invested, they should do the same as well. They should have trust in you, so they're going to get invested. It's really, really important to do that. I don't know how much time we've got and how long I've been talking. What time is it, Callum?
You've got 10 minutes.
Great, thanks.
Including questions.
Oh, fuck, okay. Okay, do's and don'ts, right? So this is, even though I kind of mentioned the Gama Sutra thing, this is kind of like that, but not really, because actually a lot of these are common sense, and they can apply, some of them are specific to pitching, but they apply to everything. They apply to interviews, they apply to just everything you should be thinking about generally when you're interacting with people, right? So, there you go. So do have trust, right? I keep emphasizing that point because it's so, so important, right? And it is a big leap, but you really, long gone are the days where you think about a publisher as this evil, kind of Machiavellian, nefarious group that's trying to take advantage of you and indenture you for life as a slave to them, you know, and that's just, the reality is that's just not the case anymore. And I don't just mean with digital publishers like Good Shepherd and Devolver and Raw Fury and Annapurna. I mean, even with the likes of EA and Activision, that's not the case. It's not that way a majority of the time. There are exceptions. There's always exceptions. But be willing to have trust. Like, be alert. This is what I mean about having a dynamic and listening. Be ready and on the ball in terms of, you know, being able to weave through a presentation. If you're having fun and you're loose, you'll be able to do that. You'll be alert to signs. Oh, they're not quite feeling this. I need to do it differently. Oh, their feedback is saying this. Maybe I should wrap this up quickly and go away and really think about this and send them a mail the next day to say, can I come back and pitch again in a month? Because the door is always open. Any good publisher, any good DevRels person that's worth their weight is not going to close the door on you. Right? That's not the way. That's not how good business is. You can't develop business if you just keep saying no to people and you just kill relationships. It just doesn't work that way. So don't worry about that. Right? Do show your investment. Don't go and ask someone for something without having spent the time and the effort and the money yourself to show that you're good for it. Right? It doesn't matter what the amount is. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million, if it's $10 million, or if it's $100,000, right? If you don't prove to me that you're invested in some way, that you're passionate about it, if you don't demonstrate that, I'm not gonna, why should I put my neck on the line for that? I'm not gonna do it. You know, passion and ability, empathy, value, these three things, you know, all of those things that I listed before, all of those studios demonstrated those things. I've never signed anything where my partner didn't demonstrate those things and where I didn't demonstrate them back. Right? That's why they're so central. And showing your investment is a really, really important part about that. This one's a really stupid one. It shouldn't have to be said. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've had a pitch sent to me, or I've been in a pitch meeting and I've come out and I've been talking to Callum, or I've been talking to one of my colleagues when I used to work at strategic content at Sony. I was like, how was the pitch? Yeah, it was really good. The game's really interesting. Like, really, really different, really differentiates itself, really unique. Great. How was the video? Good. How did the build feel? Yeah, it felt really good. How much do they want? No idea. What? I don't know. How can I help you if you don't tell me what you want? How can I even have that conversation internally? And it's endlessly surprising to me where I sit there and someone will have ticked off everything, and but they don't ask, they don't say what they want. And it doesn't have to be money, it can be anything. Like, it might be marketing money, it might just be a platform, it might be support at an event. Whatever it is, whatever support you're looking for, be specific about it. That's the clarity of vision that I spoke about when I was talking about passion and ability. In that word cloud, be clear about what you want. I cannot have a conversation with people if I don't know what you want. And I mentioned before, I put this Twitter shout out about, what are fears that people have when they go into pitches, and one was how to convey the mechanics of the game and what kind of game it is. The other biggest response was people were scared of saying how much they wanted because they were worried that they would either sell themselves short and ask for too little, or they would be asking for too much, and people would close the door. But as I just said before, people don't close the door. That's not the way it works. People will always listen to you. And if you're ever in doubt about, oh, this might be too much for this person, like it might be outside of their means, give them like a Chinese menu. Give them option A, option B, option C. Like, I would love to have all of this money. This would be my dream game with all of the features and the longest production cycle. But if that's too much, I can also do this, which I would love, for slightly less. And this is what you would get for that. So you can have that kind of conversation. If you're ever in doubt, always go high. Don't sell yourself short. Don't ask for too little, right? Because no one's gonna, they're not gonna flip a table and be like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I can't, no, that's not gonna happen. They'll just say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we just don't have that much money, but maybe you wanna talk to these people, they do. Or maybe not for this project, but for something else. It's not the end of the world. So don't unnecessarily worry yourself about that, but do be clear. Thank you. So don't. Am I that bad? You just want me to go? Callum, help. Send help. Okay, I'm really fucking embarrassed that I'm writing this one, talking about being late and the claps. Thanks a lot. Seriously, don't be late. If you're late, I have immediately ignored you. I'm not going to sign your project if you're late to meet me. I've got so many people to see that if you're late, unless you've had some kind of unforeseen, urgent medical emergency or have been involved in a car crash, there's no reason to be late. And no saying that the metro or the bus took too long. You should know that and account for that and come early, right? On the other side of it, don't come too early. If you come half an hour early, again, I'm really busy. I'm not going to come down and see you because you're there half an hour early, and that's going to piss me off because I know you're waiting there, and you're just going to sit there sweating and starting to get nervous and tight, right? Turn up 5 to 10 minutes early. It's stupid that I have to even say this, but don't be late. Don't argue. Like, don't argue in a pitch. You'd be surprised at how many people do this, including really experienced developers, right? You're going to meet lots of different types of people. Some people will be silent during a pitch, and they'll just absorb it, and they'll give you feedback afterwards. Some people are going to be really aggressive, and they're going to throw grenades at you and challenge you. So, you're going to meet lots of different types of people, and I know that you're passionate, and I know that you have to demonstrate that passion, but you have to do it in the right way. And if you hear something that you disagree with, don't say something like, oh, you don't get it. You don't understand, because you know what? If you're telling someone that you're pitching to that they don't understand your game, that's your failing, that's not their failing. You've messed up, right? So don't ever say to them they don't understand. Don't get defensive. If you really disagree with something that someone's saying, the feedback they're giving, just always take notes. Take a note of the thing, thank you, finish the meeting, go away, sleep on it. The next day, send an email and say, I've been thinking about what you said, these are the reasons that I disagree, I'd love to come back and pitch again once I've been able to try and address your concerns. Right? Do it the right way. Don't bullshit. So in the same way that you're going to do research about who you're going to talk to, they're going to do background checks on you. Again, a lot of people do this. LinkedIn, and talking to peers is really useful. Don't say that you've worked on something that you haven't worked on. A lot of people do that. Also, don't make bold claims that you can't back up. So if you say that you're going to be able to deliver this game for this budget in this time with this team, make sure that you've got access to that team and make sure that you can deliver roughly on that schedule and that you're going to be able to deliver the features that you're talking about. So don't bullshit. Don't get yourself caught up in the excitement of a partnership and getting, it's really easy when it looks like someone's really keen to be like, oh yeah, we can also do that. Be careful not to do that. And don't forget to highlight value. So along with trust, this is the other thing that I keep mentioning. Be really clear about what your value is, what their value is. It's about meeting in the middle, right? And that is the most important thing. And the one last thing that I'm going to mention is just have fun, right? So just have fun with it. I'm going to appropriate, which is a really fancy way to say steal, a quote and a phrase from my old boss, Shahid, who says that the pitch is not the deal, the contract is not the deal, the relationship is the deal. So you need to have fun, and you need to really work on that attitude and go into a pitch in a way where it's bigger than the game. You're thinking outside of the box of the game, because everything could align. You could follow these rules of empathy and value and passion and ability. And again, the timing, the stars just won't align. It's not right. But you know what? It's not the end of the world, because if you've established a good relationship, if you've begun that courting process, there's going to be so many other opportunities. They're going to remember you as much as you remember how much fun you had when you established that rapport and you talked to them. And you'll be able to go back and talk to them another time. And you will be able to get investment. It might not be on that project, but it will happen. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Ben. Stick around. Are there any questions for Ben?